Good afternoon, YouTube. Wow, Leo, 3:25. That is early. We're going to be talking about word problems again. Just moving along from really what I did yesterday. We're going to flip-flop along a lot of different stuff at different places. Okay, great. Yeah, actually, I didn't get a message about you were posting that. Although I'm not sure it does. I know it does when you leave a comment, but a comment in the comment field of a video. I'm not sure what it does with the chat thing, but in any event, I didn't even think of looking. All right, so just in case anybody doesn't know, the SHSAT is the New York City Specialized High School admission test, and that's what SHSAT means. That acronym actually has had an evolution to it, but at the moment, that's what it means. It used to have two S's dealing with science and so on. As the specialized high schools morphed a little, the name has morphed a little, but it's stayed SHSAT for a while. I call it SHSAT. Some people spell it out. This is a list of the schools we're talking about, in case nobody kind of knows what's going on here. A lot of you are totally on board with what a specialized high school is and things like that. Some of you, I get a lot of people who only find out all of a sudden, especially parents. But kids like, yeah, I kind of heard it in school. Depends what kind of school you went to as well. So this is the list of the schools here. There's Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech, Stuyvesant High School, the Staten Island Technology, Queens High School of Science at York, High School of Applied, High School of American Studies at Lehman. There's Brooklyn Tech, Brooklyn Latin, the High School of Math, Science, and Engineering at City College. So these are the ones we're talking about up here when we're talking about what this test is about. A lot of you, I get emails and so on with people coming back and forth like, really, what's this about? They get confused between a screen school and your local school. The New York City high school application process and the middle school application process and even the kindergarten and first grade application process, they're all very horribly complicated and confusing, and a lot of people get stressed out and things like that. I'm trying to take another approach with you guys. We're just trying to increment you along, and so that nobody's freaking out, your parents are not breathing down your backs, and that nobody is left in the dark, that kind of a thing, which is why I'm also doing the AMAs, because it's just the plethora of comments and statements and questions I get as I tutor kids. A lot of the questions are the same, but a lot of them I've never heard before, because there's sometimes things you would never think that somebody was confused about. So I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. So if anybody has any questions, please, by all means, email me. I'm a tutor. I do private one-on-one tutoring. I've taught in a myriad of different places, and I'm here to help everybody. So with that in mind, so what I'm doing on these kind of lightning round things is I'm just taking a shorter snippet of problems. Originally, the premise was to do super tiny, small problems, but I'm kind of branching off of that, and I might stop calling these lightning rounds, keep the lightning rounds what they were, and call this kind of thing something else. I also review questions on other YouTubes I do pertaining to specific tests and so on. So what we're going to go over today, getting back to what Leo was asking there, is I wrote up some questions, so we're just going to go over those, and they're representational of the kind of math questions that you will find for entry to any of these schools. There's one more school, which is LaGuardia, and that doesn't have a specialized test associated with it. It's a performing arts school. So if you're musically inclined or into dancing and theater and so on, for that school you have to either do an audition or provide a portfolio. Okay, so it's a test in a different way. So all these 7 or 8 schools are testing schools. Although for LaGuardia, you do not have to take the SHSAT. All right. So with that in mind, let's try to jump in here. Some of the problems today, I think I'm going to put them in a file because my handwriting is absolutely atrocious, and some of these are longer today too. So let me try to get that added into the screen here, and then I'll shift things around and let's see. Give me 2 minutes. Obviously, I should have done this beforehand, but I'm dashing back and forth between stuff. Where is that now? I believe, is it this? Yeah, there we go. All right, so it should be on your screen right now. And what I'm going to do, let's see, I have the tendency when I put the question underneath the thing, I end up blocking it. So I'm actually going to move this out of the way and put this here for now. And we'll move that on top of this. And for each question, we'll shift it back and forth. All right, so does that work? Yeah, let me even do this because we don't need the title. It just says blank.text or something like that. So let's shift this off the screen. In fact, I need to make this larger, don't I? So we'll make this a couple of fonts bigger. That might be too big. Yeah, that might be all right. All right, can everybody see that? You know what? Let me make it one more time bigger. You know what? Let me do it twice. Problem is these things come out in squares, and I want enough space to be able to write when I hand write this stuff. Here, let me do this. I think I can use my cursor to shift it. We're probably gonna have to do this per question. All right, here we go. So here's the question. I sell framed specialized high school diplomas on eBay for $99.99 each. Cool. I just received an eBay order for 79 of these frames. And the order was from the Brooklyn Latin Island Technical Mathematical Science and Engineering High School at Stuyvesant Lehman York City College in the Bronx. Okay? I have shipping boxes that can hold 5 of these framed special high school diplomas at a time. I also have another set of boxes that can hold 8 of these framed specialized high school diplomas at a time. So the question is it possible for me to put all 79 of the framed high school specialized diplomas into these 2 different box combinations without any leftover space in the box? And then, so the answer is yes or no. And then either way, what is the least number of boxes that I'm going to need? Wow. All right. So that's a bit of a mouthful. And I purposely made it slightly distracting. So give it a read through. Because a lot of these word problems, even though there's things you need to do, which I keep describing should occur when you read a word problem. In other words, look at the illustration first if there is one. Look at captions, figure out the diagrams, etc., and then rip each sentence apart one at a time and build it up and all these other things. There's also another part, which is that you have to be attentive to detail. Okay, you have to be attentive to detail. So let's start looking at it again. So I sell framed specialized high school diplomas on eBay for $99 each. So what I'm going to start doing is writing down what we're given. So a frame is $99.99. Okay. I just received an eBay order, so the order is for 79 frames. Okay. So I might think to myself, well, if it's the price, it's about $100, so it's about $7,900 altogether. I don't know where the question's going. I know I just read it, but I'm taking the position that I don't know what the question's about. All right, hello. How you doing? Welcome aboard. Please join in, like, subscribe. Check out all of my other videos as well. There's a lot of content I have on here at this point, and there's a lot more I'm going to be adding. So, all right, so we have a question up here. So I just received an order from them from this funny named high school I just talked about because apparently they're going to have a graduation and they're going to give kids out framed diplomas. So I have shipping boxes that can hold 5 of these diplomas at a time. So I basically have box 1 can hold 5, and I have box 2 that can hold up to 8 of them at a time. All right? And then it says, is it possible for me to put all 79 of the frames into these boxes without any leftover extra space? And whether that's yes or no, what is the least number of boxes I need? So the first thing I notice is, well, why did they give me the price? So I would read it over to make sure, the price doesn't matter. Nobody's asking about a price here. And the SHSAT does not have Part A and Part B questions. If they are, it's all part of the same question. So if there's a Part A and a Part B, it's a multi-part question with one answer. On the state test, you have to do a Part A and B and answer it distinctly. In this case, it's always attached. It doesn't say, like, based on your answer for question 5, what's the answer to blah, 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 blah. The SHSAT does not do that, okay? So here we have 79 frames, and we have box sizes of 5 and 8. So these are our 3 operative numbers, okay? So what do we do with this? How do we solve this? How do we figure this out, right? Well, this is what I like to do with a kind of problem like this. This is our max, right? And again, if anybody's catching this in the replay, you can pause this at this point and try to figure it out yourself. This is the max number, and these are a combo of boxes, okay? Now, you can do something like, say, well, 5 times 14 is 50, 70, 5 times 16 is almost 80. So you can say, I can get this done in 16 5-boxes, right? You can also come over here and say 8 times 9 is 72, whatever. You know what? I heard that too, Leo, and I don't believe it's the case. In fact, when I went to Brooklyn Tech, I was told I had to take swimming as well. And it turns out it was optional. In fact, they signed me up for swimming, and I decided I didn't want to do it, and they just switched me out on the spot. They just told me to go upstairs to the 8th floor gym. I was like, I don't want to do swimming in high school. And I was on a swimming team and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I believe it's the same with Stuyvesant. I don't believe you're forced to do that. In fact, there's a whole interesting story at Brooklyn Tech relating to this. The running joke is that there's a pool on the roof. And the truth of the matter is there is no pool on the roof. So, and I think some of this mythology kind of gets around. And I could be totally wrong on this, but I don't think that's the case. All right? But you could probably Google it and check it out. I'm curious to see what the answer to that is. Unless you're talking about something totally different here. Did I read that right? I heard it. Anyway, if you are somehow end up in a swimming gym class, if you are somehow in a swimming gym class, I don't think they're going to require you to know how to swim beforehand. All right? All right, so in any event, this doesn't work. The other choice is to do, 8 times 9 I get 72, 8 times 10 I get 80, and you could say, I can solve this either way. But that's not what the question's asking. All right? The question's asking, it wants the least number of boxes possible. And they want to know if you could fill it up. So in both these cases, we showed that we don't fill it up this way. We might use an 8 box and only use 5 spaces of it or something. So part of the question is, can I use this combination of boxes and fill up all 5 spaces in the 5 box and all 8 spaces in the 8 box? Okay? So one way to do that is to work with the larger number first. So we know we have 79 altogether, right? So if I take 8 away, I'm left with 71. So I've used 1 8 box here, basically is what it comes down to, right? The question is, can I, what you want to find is the highest number of 8 boxes you can, and then see then see if there's any 5s left over. So we know that 8 times 9 is 72, right? We're trying to shoot for 79. So there's a difference of 7 there. So we know we can't use 9 8 boxes and 1 5 because it still doesn't fit that way. So we're still trying to answer the first question, and then based on that, we'll decide what to do for the second question. So if we do 8 times 8, we get 64, okay? Then that presents a thing where if we do 79 minus this, we get 15, right? 79 minus 64 is 15. Well, 5 can go into 15 3 times. So this means I can use 8 8 boxes, right, and 3 5 boxes. And that turns out they're both full. They're both completely full. Because we're going to get 64 plus 15 equals 79. And that was what the original order was, right? No, I doubt that's also true as well. When you go to the STI orientation, they let you choose certain things. You can also sign up for certain different categories of classes. You can also take, they use your SHSAT score, and also you might take an ELA placement class, a math placement class, a social studies placement class, an English placement class, and based on that, they'll decide your schedule. And even after all that, even though they don't want you to do that, you can still go to your guidance counselor and request certain things. Again, the larger the school is, say Brooklyn Tech, the easier that is to do, because they can shift you back and forth without changing your whole schedule sometimes. So Brooklyn Tech has a plethora of math classes. They can shift you back and forth. They can even switch you for the next year's class. And the next year you end up taking a freshman class and vice versa. In fact, some of the schools experiment with this. Like Brooklyn Tech started doing physics in freshman year, and chemistry in freshman year, and things like that. And they found out that it worked just as well as leaving in later years. And I'm sure STI has the same kind of things as that. And when you want to get to the point of being able to take an AP class, no matter what school you go to, you need to have that figured out. So you want to be able to do this leapfrogging. And a lot of this happens on your orientation day. Okay? So this is after you pass the, I can't remember, I think it's STI, they have that at the end of June. So that by the time September comes along, they've had a few months to figure out everybody's program, their schedules and so on. All right? All right, so that's the answer for this question here. So this, and again, there was a point I want to mention before. At the moment, this is a grade 8 SHSAT and a grade 9 SHSAT question. And by the way, I forgot to mention something. When you came in at the end of yesterday's YouTube, I didn't finish the problem, and I said goodbye. I got distracted. In fact, I even said on air that I was distracted. The answer to the last question or the other one had to have 1 added to it because there was midnight. So when we figured out the 11.4 or whatever it was, I'm trying to do this from memory. Anyway, also, Leo, as to your program, your schedule, it is true as the years go on, there's a little more flexibility in that. And they do like to keep the freshmen's programs rigorous, pretty static if they can, because it can get chaotic with too much switching around. And again, it's easier at the larger schools. You know, if you go to a small school like York, which I think only has 100 freshmen or something coming into it, that gets super harder to do. All right? All right, so that's the answer to that question. And guys, I'm going to go for another 15 minutes or so here. So if we only cover 1 or 2 problems, that's fine. And by the way, we can double check this problem by subtracting 5s off of the 79. And you'll realize if we take 5 off and 5 off and 5 off, we're going to get 74. That's not divisible by 8. We're going to get 69. That's not divisible by 8. We're going to get 64. Oh, by the way, all of a sudden that is divisible by 8. So we removed it 1, 2, 3 times, and then 8 times 8. So we still get the same answer. You can use this as a double check, or you could have used this as your solution mechanism in the first place. I just like to use the higher number to count down on something like this, all right, it often becomes easier. All right. All right, so let me get us another piece of scrap paper. And let me bring up another question. Got it, thanks, I'll replay it, and it was kind of confused, so thanks for clearing it up. Yeah, I mean, keep asking these questions. Ask everybody and anybody who can help you, because as I mentioned earlier when I started the scope, the YouTube, there's so many questions. It's so complicated. There's so many aspects to all of this. Even if we just take little subsets of it all, and I'm not talking about the math here. I'm talking about the whole setup of the New York City school systems and so on. So it is deep and complicated and messy and other things like that. All right, so let me bring up another question. Let's see, what do I have here in this file? Okay, by the way, I'm going to do another YouTube on the LCM and the GCF as well, because I've been thinking about a bunch of stuff, and you guys need to be fast. And now that you have a lot of the theory down, in a lot of things, it's worth doing just jumping through the chase. Okay? Sometimes, once you got the math down and you figure things out, there's nothing like just solving a problem. Okay? Because you have a timed test. You don't have forever to answer every question. And if you need more time, say in the ELA or in certain subtopics of the math, then if you can save 10 seconds, because think of it this way. If there's 57 questions, right? Right? And you spend 5 seconds extra on a question, then that's 250 plus 35. That's 280 seconds you spent just doing extra calculations, right? That's 4 minutes. That's 4 or 5 minutes. Just doing that. That could be 2 more questions that you get right on the test. So I'm going to review, I'm going to re-go through GFC and LCM to show you some ways to, not you, everybody, show you guys ways to maybe cut your processing time of figuring those out, in some cases from a few minutes to maybe a couple seconds in a few cases. So, and there's also other ways to do computations. And a lot of these YouTubes I mentioned, no hesitation math, and I keep mentioning number sense. And the stuff you learn in the classroom, which is correct and theoretical, and even when you practice it. But then there's the real world, and a lot of the real world is like just getting something done. You don't always need to do it theoretically correct. You just need to do it. And nobody's talking about doing it erroneously or anything like that. Sometimes once you figure something out, you don't necessarily need to go back to it anymore. I don't need to teach you guys math, 1 plus 1 anymore. You figured out how to do it. And you just memorize it. You don't even do 1 plus 1 anymore. If I told you 5 times 5, you just know it's 25. You don't process that anymore. So there's a whole bunch of mathematical things when the math kind of becomes one with itself that leaps out. A simple one is if I have 1, 2, 3 times 10, there's no reason to put a 10 here and go through all this stuff here. Just add a 0 to it. Just add a 0 to it. And that's a robotic skill. That's just memorizing when something's multiplied by 10, add a 0 to it. And it's still just as valid as math. And if just putting a 0 at the end of something, instead of multiplying it out like this, that could save you the 4 seconds that add up to the 5 minutes. And if every 4 seconds, depending on a whole bunch of stuff, adds up to 5 minutes, you could be spending 20 extra minutes on the test. Remember, the test is only 3 hours. So 20 minutes is a third of an hour. And it's a ninth of the whole test. 20 minutes is 1/9 of the whole test. So that's a lot of time to just be spent not answering test questions, but doing busy work. Okay? So I'm going to revisit the LCM and GCF for that. And I'm also going to revisit some other things that we talked about in passing. Not necessarily all together in unison, but as we keep talking about this. Because, again, you have a clock against you guys. All right, so this one I'm going to write out. So if I have, and this is not really a word problem, 125 divided by 25 times 5 plus 5. What is the answer to that? What is the answer to that? And some problems are set up to be, I call them mathematical illusions. Because if I gave this problem or another similar problem to it, you would probably get it right. But there's enough kids who are going to get this wrong because of the mathematical illusion. All right? So here's what the problem is. I think everybody's going to see we do 10 here. And in fact, they're even going to say we do 10 here because of PEMDAS. Okay? And the truth of the matter is that's kind of true and false at the same time. But I don't want to get into that because that's too pathological and it's not going to be productive or anything. So let's say we get this, okay? Enough kids are going to multiply this by 25, get 250, and do 125 over this, and that's equal to a half. It's also equal to being wrong, okay? So here's what PEMDAS tells us, if we want to follow it at a certain level. It says do the parenthesis first, okay? So we get 125 divided by 25 times 5 plus 5. Let's write it over again. So do the parenthesis first, 125 over 25 times 10, okay? Now some kids think, well, there's still a parenthesis here, and it says to do it first. So if you're doing parenthesis first, we're going to multiply here first. That's not what the P means. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about doing the 5 plus 5 first. It's talking about PEMDAS means, the P in PEMDAS means evaluate the inside of the parenthesis first. Because everybody knows that something like 99 is the same as parenthesis 99. I can take these away in some cases. So in this case, once we do the 5 plus 5, the parenthesis here is superfluous. All we really have here is a multiplication. We can add them in. They don't change anything. But we can throw them out and maintain the integrity of what's being said here. And then we go on to the next part of PEMDAS, which is the exponent. There's no exponent. And then we do multiplication and division together. And there's a precedent there. It's called precedent, operator precedent. It turns out the multiply and division have the same precedent. And they are evaluated left to right. So if that's the case, we have a division and a multiplication, right? Let me make this cleaner. We have 125. What are the numbers? Divided by 25 times 10, right? So we have these two are equal precedent. And we're told we process it left to right. So we can 125 over 20, we get 5 times 10, and the answer becomes 50. All right? So remember your PEMDAS stuff. Don't get caught up in the illusion. So the parenthesis created two illusions here. Or the parenthesis created two problems. One problem was it created the illusion that once you got to 10, you immediately multiply it by the 25 and get 250. No, whoever said to do that? That's not PEMDAS. And the other problem is the illusion that the parenthesis being first means you're supposed to do parenthesis first. But that's not what the P means. All right? So there's enough kids still who are screwed up about PEMDAS. They have PEMDAS like 95%. There's some kids who don't have it at all. But if you have PEMDAS 95%, it means you're going to be getting your answer wrong a lot of times. And you're going to be kind of guessing it, and then you might brute force your answer at some point and reverse it back and be like, oh yeah, it kind of seems to work. I can't prove how, but like, yeah, it's got to be the answer. And you never know quite why. Sometimes it's because of that parenthesis. All right? All right, so there's that question. Let's see, we have 538. So let's try to jump into another one. Okay, let me put this one in a file. I'm going to have to move this because it's not going to fit. So let me bring this to here, pop it in, and then we'll pop it back out. In fact, I have to edit. I have to put the numbers into it. So let me get this going. One second. It's formatting. It's not formatting properly. And let's see, what were the numbers I needed? 5.5. 4. Okay, I think we're good. So let me bring that back. All right, there we go. So let me bring it up on my screen too. So we have a, actually let me make sure the stream is going as well and so on. Yeah, we're good. Okay, yeah, things look good. All right, so a rectangular picture is 5.5 feet high, and 4 feet wide. It has a 3-inch frame around it. It is hung so that the center of the picture and the frame is exactly 4 feet from the ceiling. What is the distance to the nearest whole inch from the top of the picture to the ceiling? All right, so let's go through it again with our givens. And this is one I wouldn't mind representing graphically. So I have a picture. It tells me that the picture is 5.5 feet wide. No, I did that wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to do so we have what looks like a ceiling. So this is 5.5 feet high. This is the picture, right? We have and 4 feet wide. Okay. It has a 3-inch frame around it. So that means this little piece here, that's 3 inches. This little piece here, that's 3 inches. This little piece here, that's 3 inches. And this little piece here, and they're all supposed to be equal. Sorry, my not only is my handwriting atrocious, but my illustrations are atrocious as well. So we have that, right? And it says that it's hung from the center of the picture. So right here, let's call this P really the C, right? The center. It is hung from the center of the picture and frame, and it's exactly 4 feet from the ceiling. So from here to here is 4 feet. The top here is the ceiling. All right? So what is the distance to the nearest whole inch from the top of the picture to the ceiling? All right, so there's a couple ways to solve this. Here's how I would do it. Since the frame is 3 inches each, 3 and 3 is 6 inches. The whole height is 5.5. So the picture plus the frame is 6 feet. I wrote inches here. This is feet. Because this is half a foot, right? So we're going to convert some units. So we get 6 feet. So from here to here, from the top of the frame to the bottom of the other frame, the picture, and the bottom frame, that's all 6 feet. All right? So that means from the center to the top of here, from here to here, and from here to here, these each must be 3 feet. Right? From here to here is 3 feet. And we're told from here to here was 4 feet. So that means from here to here is 1 foot. Right? From the ceiling to the top of the frame is 1 foot. And that seems to be our answer. But it's not. Because the question is, what is the distance from the top of the picture to the ceiling? This is from the top of the frame to the ceiling. So we have to add that extra 3 inches in there. So we get 1 foot, 3 inches. All right? So this one is a word problem. It probably was not a grade 9 one. This was probably a grade 8 one. All right? But it's a good one. It's a good question. It's trying to have you keep track of a whole bunch of different stuff. And I purposely made the numbers easier. I could use whole numbers like 6 and so on. But imagine if this was like 2.75 feet. And the frame was like 1.25 feet and all this other stuff. So the numbers here could have been a lot more uglier and so on, all right? And by the way, if you have ugly numbers and you don't know how to approach it just because it all just doesn't seem to make sense. And by the way, this could turn out to be a grid-in question, right? It doesn't have to have an ABCD answer. If it has ABCD, it's probably distracting because they're probably going to put answers of common errors that happen. So this is one of the ones you have to watch out for, all right? Because they're probably going to put the wrong answers down as the choices, especially in a case like this. In this one, because the numbers, there's enough numbers to just bounce it back and forth. It's not so much it's a hard problem, it's a busy problem. All right? So you want to make sure, and especially with the grid in. All right? You want to feed the numbers back in. You want to feed them in. So it's a foot there, right? 3 inches, and this would have been 2.75 from here to the center, just looking at the picture by itself. All right? Now, if we took the frame away, it's a different question. It's a totally different question. Right? The frame is what jazzed this up slightly. It gave it the twist. And you always need to look for that twist. Sometimes the twist isn't there. But being observant and keeping aware of the twist, especially, so in this was a case where at least when I did it here right now in front of you, I'm accommodated for the 3 inches. But I could have said the answer was 3 foot, or whatever the answer turned out to be. I don't remember what the answer was, but and you have to accommodate what that was. Yeah, the originally without the frame, the answer would have been a foot, but with the frame, it's a foot and 3 inches, right? So you have to accommodate for that. All right. Yeah. In fact, did I write the wrong thing here? I may have wrote 6 foot 3 inches. I meant 1 foot 3 inches. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing this live often, so if I make a mistake, please be aware of it yourselves as well. At the end of the day, you guys are the ones taking the test. What's important is that you can fix your mistakes, especially when you're double checking. Have other ways to logically think it through. This looks like a mess at this point, so when you try to finally figure it out, redraw it neat and say, yeah, that actually does jive. If you box into a corner on something like this, remember that you don't need to use their numbers. Use your numbers. Often it's worth replacing numbers they give you with 1, 2, 3, or 4. Sometimes just really, really simple numbers. But be aware of that because sometimes 1 is too universal, it's too much of an identity, and 2 just comes up too often in certain cases. So sticking with the 3 or 4 is often helpful, all right, for things like this. All right, let me see if I have a small one, and we'll do one more. And then we'll be done for this for today. All right, let me bring this one up. Let me see if that's going on the screen right. No, it isn't. But let me move this away because I'm not sure we need it for this problem. So which of the following expressions is equal to an odd number? So, do you actually go and compute all those things? And by the way, in C we have 66 carried 2. That means 66 to the exponent of 2. 66 is base, and 2 is the exponent. In other words, we have 66 squared, or 66 times 66. I'm using a font and text here, so it doesn't always map over correctly. So which of the following expressions is equal to an odd number? And by the way, this is a good example to end on. It's also a good example to represent what I was talking about, the no hesitation math, and having mathematical astuteness, and being one with the numbers and so on. Because it turns out you actually don't have to do all these calculations. All right? So if we do 99 times 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll get some answer. But the truth of the matter is, if we just take the 9 and the 4 and multiply them, right, we get 36. So whatever the answer is to 99 times 1, 2, 3, 4, that has to end in a 6. Well, that's even. So the answer can be A. All right? If we go to B, right, we have a 3 and a 7 there. Right? So if we subtract the differences of those, we might also get a 6, right? Because we're gonna borrow from the 4 and get 13, and then the 7 from that, so we get a 6. So that one we know is even. We just know it's even. It has to be, right? So C is 66 squared, or 66 times 66, and it's similar to A, which is that 6 times 6 is 36. So whatever happens with 66 times 36, the answer has to end in a 6. So that's even as well, all right? So we come to D with division. And you could kind of just see straight up there, if we do 99 into 99, we get 1, right? And then 99 into 90, we can't do it. So you could see there's a remainder and so on or whatever. So what it means is we don't even get a whole number answer here. So we get something with a fraction, which can't be even or odd. The whole number part of it can be, but if there's a decimal part or a fraction, we're up the creek. So that leaves E as the only choice. So if we look at E, let's make sure we didn't make a mistake in any of the other ones. If we do what we did in A and C with E, which is to multiply the 3 and the 7, we get 21. So it means whatever 1, 2, 3 times 4, 5, 6, 7 is, it ends in a 1, which is an odd number. All right? So, I mean, I explained this all, and it was fairly rapid, where I'm doing all this just talking, and you can do this in your head. So you can cross off the stuff, bing, bang, boom, zippity-doo-dah, right? And you're done with it. All right? All right, so let me see if anybody has a question here. They don't. All right, everybody, hopefully you guys have a good day. I'll figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like I said, I'll do the GCF and the LCM one. I might do that tomorrow. There's a plethora of choices here. Again, I'm Greg at GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. You can see my email at the bottom there. Please email me of any technical questions, any questions about how these schools work, registration, when it's going to happen, all this other stuff. I'm trying to keep everybody stress-free and feel in the groove of this thing here. All right, everybody, peace out.